Yesterday I began to go around. I was walking and praying around the hotels around us. Lewd pictures, and they are not ashamed to display it. Wickedness on the increase in our time. The other day I was going to Abuja through train, and here were these young men who were mocking Jesus in the public place. And I said to myself, what is happening? What is happening to this generation? You know that the heart of men and women are no longer in the same way we used to be when we knew Christ. People are turning, though they are religious, but their hearts are far away from God. Evil is increasing. Wickedness is increasing in our generation. And this is the generation that have all kinds of Bibles. Success Bible, Victory Bible, Miracle Bible, all kinds of Bibles we can think about. Whether in soft copy or in hard copy, they are there. This is the generation where a body is going to use 140 billion to build a congregation, to build a cathedral. This is the generation where a lot of buildings are on the increase in the name of Christianity. This is a generation where people open churches just because they want to make money. Religion is on the increase, but the life is declining. Where are the men who will withstand the ground? Where are the men who will say no? Where are the men who will say, Lord, give me my generation? Where are the men who will make a difference? How can we change our generation? That is the burden in my heart. And I pray that through this sharing, God in his mercy will bring you to a level to share in this passion, to implant a burden in your heart for your generation. Turn with me to the book of Acts. Acts of the Apostles, chapter 13. Acts of the Apostles, chapter 13, verse 36. I just read that verse. I'm reading Acts of the Apostles, chapter 13, verse 36. For David, after he had served his own generation by the will of God, fell asleep, was buried with his fathers, and saw corruption. But he whom God raised up saw no corruption. The writer of Acts of the Apostles was trying to differentiate the prophecy to David and to that of Jesus. That yes, when the book of Psalms talk about the Holy One not seeing corruption, it was not really referring to David, it was referring to Jesus. But in passing, he mentioned how David served his generation according to the will of God before he died. He said, David, after he had served God, or served his own generation by the will of God, fell asleep and he was buried. I want that the Lord God, by his divine grace, awaken a consciousness in your spirit that you have a responsibility to your generation. I have a responsibility to my generation. Generation sometimes is referred to a period of 40 years when a man was born and lived. Sometimes it can also refer to the period you lived. So for David, from the time he was young till the time he was crowned king of Israel, until the time he died, we're told that David served his generation. The time he lived on earth was a time of service, and he used it to serve his people according to the will of God. You remember how when he was very young, under the care of his father, he went with the sheep into the farm, or into the farm, and there he took care of them. And when a lion and a bear came to challenge him, he rose up with the strength of God in him, and he killed them. You remember at that age too, when King Saul was sick and was mentally derailed, they looked for a man who was skilled to play the drum. He went and he played, and the man became well. You remember how David served his generation through his service to his nation, how he brought victory to Israel, how he became king and he conquered all the enemies, and he reigned in Israel and brought peace to Israel. Yes, he served God according to his will in his generation. And after that, he died and he was buried. The argument here is that he saw corruption. But that's not really the point. The point is that David recognized that he was an instrument in God's hand to bring sanity, to bring progress, to bring his generation under the will of God. That is the point we are talking about here. Let's look at the book of Genesis. In Genesis chapter 30, we read a challenging prayer that Rachel prayed. Genesis chapter 30. Just read verse 1 there. Now, when Rachel saw that she bore Jacob no children, Rachel envied her sister and said to Jacob, "Give me children, or else I die." That was the request of Rachel to Jacob, her husband. And of course, you know that Jacob was angry. Am I in the stead of God? Do I have the power to give children? But the point I want to draw your attention to is the request he brought to Jacob. He said, "Give me children, or else I die." I want you to focus on your generation. Give me my generation, oh Lord. Give me my generation. I don't want my generation to go astray. I don't want my generation to miss your ideals for their lives. I want that burden, that passion, like a woman longing for children. Let that come upon you. I want a transformation, a change in my generation. That is my desire. You may have read or heard about John Knox, who in his days was not happy over what was happening in Scotland. Drunkenness, immorality, stealing and cheating, oppression was the order of the day. And John Knox knew that the only thing that can change it is not a change in government, but that it was through his knees, and on his knees he can bring transformation. So he prayed, "Give me Scotland or I die." That was his heart cry. That was his burden. And I ask you, do you have a concern? Do you have a burden? Is there something driving you? Is there something causing you a sleepless night? Because your generation is drifting away. Evil is increasing in our generation. And do we allow this to continue? The last passage I would like us to read is Hebrews. Baba have drawn attention to it before. Hebrews chapter 11, 32 to 36. There were men who were faced with different challenges, different opinions, different government in their days. And they said, no, you cannot continue. And they rose and did something. And these things are chronicled in the book of Hebrews. So Hebrews chapter 11 from 32. You know, the book of Hebrews, listed men of faith and their exploits. Here in verse 32 it says, and what more shall I say? For the time would fail me to tell of Gideon and Barak and Samson and Jephthah, also of David and Samuel and the prophets. These were men of like passion, men like us, who saw challenges in their generation. I said, no, we cannot just fold our hands. God must do something through us and with us to make a difference. And what did they do? Who through faith subdued kingdoms. The kingdom of unrighteousness, the kingdom of wickedness, the kingdom of sin is prevailing in our time. And we need a man and a woman who will rise in the strength of the Lord, in the strength of the Spirit. I said, you cannot go further. They walked righteousness. They obtained promises. They stopped the mouths of the lions. We need a replication of this in our time. We need men who will quench the violence of fire, who will escape the edge of the sword. Out of weakness were made strong, became violent in battle, turned to flight the armies of the aliens. Wickedness is prevailing. The Yahoo boys is on the increase. The other day, I was returning from a journey between Jos and Abuja. And I had someone who was calling me, so I picked my phone and I answered. He said, yes, there is a number sent to you. What is the number? What is the number? That we are having all-night prayers in Delta Mission Congress. I knew it's a familiar terrain. I know what Delta Mission Congress is. So I knew it's somebody who knows either myself or who knows Delta Mission Congress. So I said, okay, give me time. I will look at my text and my inbox and send you the number. So I looked at it. Before I opened it, he had called again. I said, I'm coming. Before long, he had called again. So I knew something was wrong. So when he called again, I told him I will send the number to the Delta Mission Congress platform. You go and take it from there. I never suspected him to be a Yahoo boy who wanted to encroach into my WhatsApp page. So by the time I posted it, something just said to me, why was that man in a hurry? Why are you posting this thing here? So I quickly deleted, and for every other person. It was later I got to know that it was a Yahoo boy. He wanted to penetrate into the platform, and he was calling on people to be able to access them. There is wickedness on the increase in our time. Is that true? Is that true? We preach the gospel. Today, every one of us is in the church. And a few minutes after now, people will begin to troop back to their various homes. We have returned from church service. But the wickedness are still with people. People are still practicing. So what can we do? What are we going to do about this? And that is why you need God's direction. You need God to speak to your spirit, speak to your mind. on your role for your generation. You need to pray. Yes, our Sunday school have reminded us that we can do great miracles in our time, and that is true. And one of the ways to channel the ability to perform miracle is to subdue wickedness, evils, oppression, wickedness that is going on in our society. Is to subdue it. And God will depend upon you. God will depend upon me. So these men, people like Gideon, Barak, Samson, Jephthah, David, Samuel, and the prophets of old, they held on to God for their generations. And God answered them. They turned, we are told that they turned kingdoms, pulled down kingdoms, established righteousness. May God raise up somebody from among us. May God raise a man and a woman from among us. May God raise youth from among us who are going to say no to evil in our generation. The giants are around us. And we need men who will rise up. Very quickly, I want to share something here which will lead us to prayer sessions. I saw in the WhatsApp platform of different age groups of people, beginning from age 1 month to 10, those who are babies and toddlers, they are supervision age. 11 to 20, they are the adolescents and studies age. From 21 to 30, they are the those commitment and determination age. 31 to 40, they are the decision making age. 41 to 50, they are the achievement and fulfillment. And those in the group of 51 to 60, they are the amendment and the reconciliation age. 61 to 73, they are the aged or old. They are the old age. 61 to 73, they are the old age. Old age, they call it. Then 73 to 80, the aged. 81 to 70 to 91, they are the by age. 100, they said it's over. Well, I appreciate the person who wrote this and sent it out. I don't know what age group you are in, but your age group tells you of your generation. In my generation, I know when I gave my life to Christ, there were several people who were serving idols. And we stood and preached and confronted idol worshiping. I remembered when I gave my life to Christ, I went home and saw my father and my mother, greeted, respected them. But I shared my faith with them. And my father rebuked me and said, these idols, which I'm condemning now, were the idols they used to raise me up. But thank God, today, as I look back at my family and also at my community where I came from, a lot of people have become saved. Some of them are ministers of the gospel. Some of them are workers in the church and making inroads. So we stood and fought for the faith. Stood and fought for the faith. And so we can look back and say, many mates are believers today. Many of them are believers. Many of them not only believers, but also they are ministers. But as you look, you see that those who gave their life to Christ to embrace strange doctrines, strange teachings because of social medias, because of the global world phenomenon, that people have access to different teachings. Some of them have embraced false doctrines. Some of them have gone into all these dubious acts. What are we going to do? Do I have a responsibility to them? Yes. Do you have a responsibility to your own? Yes. We cannot just sit aloof. We cannot just say, we have come to church, we have been saved, we are now waiting for Jesus to take us to heaven. No. What can we do to confront evils that is on the increase in our time? What can you do? What can you do?